You're watching NewsX. I am Rishabh Gulati. Many times, ladies and gentlemen, we are the victims of perpetuating our past. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of determination to move out of stalemates. Because however horrible they are, they're comfortable, they're recognizable. They provide a bizarre sense of continuity, much to our detriment and as an impediment to our progress. In the whole scope of Indian civilization, which stretches from Kandahar all the way till Indonesia, it is an amalgamation of every possible ethnic, creed, race that you can think of. In the modern context, Curzon told us in 1905 that Hindus and Muslims are two nations living in the same land. The British punished us. They punished us in their last throw before an inglorious exit of the Raj from India. Mountbatten was the commander-in-chief of all British forces in Southeast Asia. That's why he's called Mountbatten of Burma. The British Army had just won the Second World War. Yet, they caused a de facto Holocaust that nobody talks about in this country, that primarily affected Hindus and Muslims in Bengal, which they had divided. Anywhere between 3 and 6 million people died of starvation in 1943. And then they sat and watched as Hindus and Muslims killed themselves in the bullock carts and trains in a partition that they had ill-conceived. It's been 80 years. And we've become comfortable in that skin. Why? Are we at the cusp of breaking out? It's an imperative question because we are in an imperative time. We are exercising the largest power ever held sway in the history of democracy in the world. It is happening as we are speaking. The gravitas of the moment need not escape us. It is not insensible for Muslims in this country to have apprehensions and insecurities. They can exist. It is equally not insensible for Hindus in this country to observe the fate of their brethren in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and wonder what would have happened if we were a Muslim majority. Would they have exterminated us? These core issues require our elevation of thought. And that elevation of thought has now, unfortunately, brought us down to the comforts of the past. Not only are we mixing religiosity with the concept of quotaism, but we are choosing to define ourselves by it. Are we to now say that Muslims in this country will choose or not choose a government on the basis of a guarantee of a quota on the basis of their religion? And are we to say that Hindus in this country will choose or not choose a government on the basis of giving Muslims or not giving them a quota in public institutions? Let's attempt what can be a very toxic conversation with as much intellectual bravery to address the hard questions, but try to raise the bar for all ourselves. Joining us now on the broadcast to just settle this down and have an intelligent conversation, even though it is not practically easy. Athar Zia is with us. He's a part of something called IMPAR. And if you watch NewsX regularly, you're familiar with it. He and his colleagues, who are all volunteers, it's not a formal organization per se. Everybody has a daytime job. But they have been, for the past several years, since I've been interacting with them, providing a reasonable and seasoned critique or compliment of the issues, which is in stark contrast to this culture we had created in TV debates of everybody shouting and screaming at each other and having rabid and toxic and horrible conversations. So to the collective, my credit. Rahul Ishwar is joining us on the broadcast as well. Shamravish Rain with us. She's an advocate in the Supreme Court of India, and Major Mohammad Ali Shah will be joining us very shortly. Athar Zia, let me ask you then, sir, the straightforward question. As a Muslim, do you want to see a Muslim quota implemented in this country?
No, not at all. Actually, Rishabh, let me tell you that there was a conference in India Islamic Cultural Center in Lodhi Road, and there was a presentation, I don't know, some Muslim body. I told them that Muslim should represent the government, that there should not be any quota on the basis of religion. It should be only on the basis of economic poverty criteria. And since all the backward people or economically deprived people, they will get the share automatically. This is what is happening in all the welfare schemes which so very well developed and being delivered by the Modi ji's government. First. The second, that it is really very shocking that after Mandal Commission, there was so much of quota and generation is getting benefited from that quota system, leaving aside the competency or the caliber, the quality or deservedness of the post or what for they are applying.
Okay, so let me follow up then. So let me follow up.
Let me complete. Yeah. Let me complete, Rishabh. Let me complete.
Please.
Then you see a doctor's son is getting a quota, an IS son is getting the quota, who is so privileged. Now no government has taken a bold decision to rationalize the quota, and there is a competitiveness to get the quota on the basis of religion, region, caste, and there is a huge competitiveness among all the political parties. See, Chandrababu Naidu has also promised, who is an ally of BJP, 4% quota. Same has come up by Lalu Yadov, which has, retracted his even statement, saying that I am only saying about Mandal Commission. So the government, at least when they are in full power and majority, and when they get the people's mandate, they should come out that, okay, quota is good only for the persecuted or only for the economically backward or the people who are underprivileged.
So you're saying no. Personally, no, that's not the premise that you feel. Do Muslims in general in this country feel bad that OBCs get a quota and SC/STs get a quota and we don't?
No. OBC is fine. OBC is fine. I'm talking about scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBC. But it should be rationalized. Why generation after generation? Your one generation has got the quota. You became an IAS. You became a doctor. You became you achieved whatever on the basis of quota. But now You
Okay.
know, your
Yes,
coming generation
I
also
know.
and
It's
your
called,
coming
for people
generation
watching the
also.
broadcast, it's called the creamy layer argument, okay? And this has
Yeah.
been going on for 20 years in this country, and
So, the
nobody
basic
resolved it.
premise
Okay.
is that the quota should be on only on economic criteria. Exception is scheduled caste and scheduled tribes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now let's come in to the premise of development, because everybody wants, hopes, and aspires for a better life for themselves in their times and for their children in the future. So, in your assessment, what then are more effective means of upliftment, progress, even welfareism for India's Muslims?
You know, they are getting an equal opportunity. And if they are economically backward or persecuted or pasmanda, they are automatically getting the government benefits, which is welfare scheme. And same way, if the quota is on the basis of economic criteria, so the economically very backward people, whether they are Muslims, whether they are Pandits, whether they are any caste, any religion, they will automatically
Okay.
qualify, become eligible to get that quota. And
Okay.
their upliftment will be there. That is
Okay.
the purpose of the quota, right?
Okay, okay. So there is a logic to the argument, and we are in polarizing times. And polarizing times, ladies and gentlemen, benefit both sides. Okay. So the Congress is happy to do it. The BJP is too happy to see it happen as well. All right. Let's not kid ourselves. That's what politics is. Things will have regain gravitas hopefully
You see
a
the
month later.
politician.
Okay, okay. So just hang on. Let me get Ms. Rain in. Ms. Rain, same question to you. When you are having these conversations about how the elections are panning out, how is this figuring in your imagination? Is it a dream come true that a party is offering a Muslim quota and therefore they deserve the unified support of Muslims just on that premise?
Look, none of the parties, according to me, the way they are making this statement is only to gather votes. Otherwise, Muslims are never going to get reservation on terms of their specific religion, because minorities already have reservation. But there are many Muslims who fall under OBC. They also have their own reservation. They also come under OBC. So Muslims don't need any such kind of a extra reservation at all. We have AMUs, we have other Muslim schools and colleges. So and they are doing very good. AMU is considered as one of the best in India. So there's no other reservation that is required to any of the Muslims in India. So this statement is being made nothing. It's only to polarize. They are just they are just making different kind of statement. They are just changing a sentence. If someone has made a statement, a comma and a full stop changes the complete meaning of the sentence.
Okay.
This is what doing, and they have been taking words from here and there and then making a different statement altogether. Muslims will never get any kind of reservation at all. This is a guarantee from me.
Okay.
Why I am making such kind of a strong statement is we have Supreme Court of India above us. If something this sort of happens, by any chance, this sort of happens, Supreme Court is there. They will pass a judgment that
Okay.
it's not possible.
Okay, but you know the argument that is made by the Congress that we'll change it in Parliament so that we'll override the Supreme Court's 50% cap and etc. But okay, that's a technical argument. Since you're a lawyer, I'll come back to that. But I want to address the larger premise first. Then, what is your hope? Because the criticism of the BJP is that, listen, you don't have members of parliament who are Muslims, so representation is woefully inadequate of our community. It's strange that in 250 million people, the BJP can't find one single Muslim who they think can win a seat on their ticket, despite having some leaders who are of the Muslim faith. So that's a known criticism. What is your demand, your hope from the Bharatiya Janata Party, from the Prime Minister and his government, and potentially going ahead? What would you like to see for the Muslim community?
That first there should be representation in his own organization, that is BJP. If you do that, you will show that you are a prime minister is never a Hindu or a Muslim. A prime minister of a country is genderless, is religionless, is casteless. He has to be he's the head of the country. He has to take everyone together hand in hand, and he has to work for everyone. So it's him who has to see that there's proper representation on behalf of everyone, be it Muslim, Christian, SC, ST, everyone. Because SC, ST are also facing as many problems as Muslims, as Hindus, as different people. So everyone needs a representation in the parliament, yes, because there are many problems that according to us that we are seeing in the news, or just talking to someone, and we see that
Okay.
SC/ST has this very
Okay,
small
so the Muslim MPs, okay, for example, you have an Asaduddin Owaisi. Do they represent the issues of Muslims well? Do you think an Asaduddin Owaisi has done a good job of raising the right, correct, progressive issues of Muslims in this country?
No, he has not been raising good issues at all. Last time also, when I was here on your channel, I have said that every government has ignored Muslims. I would agree to it. Why? Because you see any area wherein the area is not developed, that clearly everyone knows कि ये तो पक्का Muslim area है. That smallest thing, a development, a smallest thing, that clearly shows that every government has ignored Muslims. So they don't want reservation. They want that you represent them, you talk about them, and you give them what is basic need.
Okay.
Basic human need is cleanliness, education, development. Everything things should be there.
Okay, all right, okay. So let me get Major Shah into this conversation. Major Shah, it's a straightforward question, okay? Let's not beat around the bush. In your experience, is a 6% reservation for Muslims in public institutions something that the community hopes for, desires, is motivated by?
Rishabh, basically, when anyone gets any reservation, irrespective of the caste, creed, religion, community, people feel very happy about it, that, oh, I've got a reservation, I'll have an easy way out. But I have a slightly different take to it. As Allama Iqbal, who wrote Sare Jahan Se Acha as well, he said once, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So if you are strong enough, you will not need reservation, irrespective whether you come from wherever. But if you are given reservation, if you are given that pampering, you will not be able to stand tall. That is my personal take. And I feel if I am not fit enough to be a doctor, I'll give you an example. If you make me a doctor because of my reservation, that I have been, and when I cure you, when you have come to me as a patient, I'll give you some wrong medication. I'll put your life at stake. It'll be very dangerous. If I do not deserve something, but I'm been given that, I'm not capable of that, but I'm been given a concession.
But Major Shah, I know it's a long-winded argument, and I want to register it because there'll be people watching the broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the argument for the argument for is that yes, meritocracy is the most important thing, because exactly doctors and lawyers and space scientists and all can't be on the basis primarily of an identity. But the argument is that you have to empower people because the entrance exam is not the same. Somebody who's had the opportunity of a better primary and secondary education, who has had the luxury of tuition, who has the monetary resources to provide for coaching classes, that person has an advantage in giving that exam. So it's not a level playing field, and the quotas are supposed to level the playing field. Then you have what Atar Zia pointed out is the creamy layer phenomenon, that you level the playing field for how many generations? If you become a UPSC IS officer, okay, is the next generation also deprived? Do they also not have this? They do not get opportunities. So it's a long, complex rope. It's a complex argument. But in essence, you're hearing a conversation that at least the three people who are with us, they are not going gaga. They are not going, where is the polling station? Let me get there tonight because the Congress is going to be offering us a quota. Now, let me ask a specific question. Major Shah, in 2014, A.K. Antony was asked to file a report on why they think the Congress performed really, really badly. And it was, remember, 2019, they were used to it. 2014 was a shock to the system. Worst ever performance of the Congress party ever in the history of India. And in that report, he specifically mentioned that their leaders started talking about a Muslim quota, which many suspected they had no intention of giving, but they alienated the Hindus because they were talking about it 24/7. Now, he wrote that in his report, which has been widely discussed upon years ago, 10 years ago. So, is this conversation easing communal divides, or is it polarizing us more?
Could I request your back-end team to mute everyone? Because I cannot understand
Yeah, please.
I thought that I have been muted. You know,
No.
but it was not.
Atharji, they're going in rotation, so there's no disturbance. That's all. The team will unmute you. Don't worry when you speak. Major Shah, please go ahead.
So, Rishabh, see, I feel if you give me reservation, and I come from the army background, so I'll give you that example. And because of reservation, I get through the army. This is an example I'm quoting. I'm not capable enough, but I've got that concession. I'll get into action, I'll get killed, and I'll get my men killed as well. It'll be unpardonable, absolutely. Now, if you want to get people on the level playing field, provide them education. There's no education. There's lack of education in many places which are backward, be it Muslim areas. My father is doing a lot of work for education, not only for Muslim, for Indians, for people, because our country today, our country overall, we are the fourth largest economy in the world. We are going to be a superpower. But what stops us behind are two things. One is lack of discipline. As Indians, whether people like it or not, I will call it very bluntly, we lack discipline overall, not you and me, but overall. Secondly, lack of education in our country. Many people earlier, it's improving, thankfully. We are improving, we are getting there. But because many Indians, unfortunately, are not well educated. When they would not be well educated, they would not get good jobs. Because they would not get good jobs, they would not get good salaries. When they would not get good salaries, they would obviously not be able to educate the next generation.
Yes.
And that is the reason that
so for people watching the broadcast, I'm sure most of you already know. So Major Shah's father, Lieutenant General Shah, of course, was Lieutenant General in the Indian Army. He was, Ms. Ren mentioned AMU, he was the Vice Chancellor of the Aligarh Muslim University. His uncle, of course, is the famous Nasiruddin Shah. Major Shah, how would you describe yourself? You've been in the armed forces. Now, of course, you're working and you're earning a living. Would you describe yourself as a middle-class Indian Muslim?
Yes, Rishabh, I would call myself a middle-class Indian Muslim. I would. I mean, irrespective of because I believe in one thing. इंसान किस खानदान में पैदा होता है ये जरूरी नहीं है. इंसान खुद क्या करता है ये बहुत जरूरी है.
Okay.
So I go by because ancestry is nothing to boast about. It's something to live up to. So I am trying my best.
I agree. You got big shoes to fill. I mean, Lieutenant General Zamiruddin and uncles, Nasiruddin, big shoes to fill. But the reason I mentioned that is because Major Shah is not a deprived individual. He doesn't come from a deprived family. But nor is he a person saying that tomorrow I'm, roaming around my Ferrari. He's very much having to work hard to earn a living after having served the country in uniform. So he's contributing to the fabric of the economy. So the perspective puts a lot of relativism into what we're discussing. Rahul Ishwar is now in the broadcast. So Rahul Ishwar, let's understand this, because now, about 4 weeks into the elections, a lot of the familiar ghosts are back with us. Okay, it's become more predictable. First 2 weeks was surprisingly, perhaps for some people shockingly, rather tame and very quiet and very hopeful, altruistic. We come back to brass tacks now. What do you think? What is going on? Why would the Congress not only do this but double down on this?
Two submissions. 92 years back, when British were ruling us, Ramsay MacDonald, their British Prime Minister, brought something called a communal award. It was one of the first initiatives of what we call reservation and quota in India. Then Mahatma Gandhi said, I will die, but I will not let Hindus be divided, and went on the fast. And Pune Pact was made possible. That's how the first reservation officially, which later passed on to the representation in Indian constitution, came. And Mahatma Gandhi went for nearly fast 6 to 7 days. And Ambedkar had to concede because there was a nationwide uproar for Mahatma Gandhi. And basically it was a charity by Ambedkar towards Gandhi, not the other way around. It was a charity by our Dalit brothers towards my community, Brahmins and Savarna Hindus, because we wanted to save Mahatma Gandhi, and reservation or quota system was fixed. Even though this was the noble intention, 1932, Pune Pact in Yerwada jail, later politicians started using quota as a mechanism to consolidate vote bank. For example, if A community is there, usko, koi reservations also, so that the A community will vote for us. There will be a B community, then they will say they are backward. Even my community in Kerala started arguing that Brahmins are backward and we need reservation. The Jats had a huge protest that they need reservation. So every community, in order to consolidate themselves and want their people to stick around themselves, started demanding reservation. And what we saw, the present day reservation, apart from the representation that was originally envisioned in educational institutions, in jobs, became because politicians want to consolidate the various caste identity. Now, I am a great champion of Hindu-Muslim unity, but at the same point of time, let me be very honest, many political parties who simply want to give Muslims reservation, not because they have any extra love for Muslims, they want to consolidate that particular vote bank. They can tell these vote banks, see, we are the people who gave you this, now give me this back too. As Major Saab earlier said, we need to have education, access, opportunity. These three things should be the core. So any person coming to army, any person who comes to media, any person who becomes an advocate, any person who becomes a doctor should be qualified and equipped enough. And we should be ready to spend any amount of money for uplifting, upgrading, educating, upskilling them. But when it comes to reservation and just giving them a quota, it becomes a problem. It becomes social issues. One of my friends will feel that I didn't get, he got. The other person will say, we got only 3, he got 5. So it becomes a number game.
Rahul, obviously the future is to increase the size of the pie, not divide up what you got, which is what we've been doing. We will get there. That I'm more confident about in the country now. But I have a specific question. So now you heard reasonable positioning, reasonable arguments by 3 people who are Indian and happen to be Muslim. So Rahul, my question is that when you have certain individuals who I would say do not offer progressive politics, okay, they come and they say anything done on triple talaq is interference. They've spent their careers complaining about the fact that the Ram Mandir never existed. And they keep winning. One such individual keeps winning from Hyderabad. So there are some people who are buying into this, who buy into it, and then they feel that there are Hindus also who buy into it. That's how polarization works.
Absolutely.
So are you seeing some people out there who are more than happy to absorb this ugliness and take it at face value?
Absolutely. My pranams to all the 3 panelists here who's really spoke up. I have good respect to OIC sir, but the point is, at the end of the day, we should not have the persecution card, be it anyone. Many in my community also play the persecution card. See, we have been persecuted for the past 70 years. Everyone is saying we are persecuted. Then who is getting uplifted? Then who is getting benefited? Everyone claims. And Supreme Court, Supreme Court once said this exact observation. Supreme Court said, India is the only land where people and communities queue up to say that we have been persecuted and we have been sidelined. We are the only nation where everyone is claiming that we are persecuted and sidelined. I mean, that is not the way to go ahead. Yes, we need support for a lot of things. All the backward, as Attar Saab was saying, our backward, especially economically backward people should get all the support, because it is none of our fault if we are born in a less privileged family, and it is the state responsibility with all the welfare economics, all the distribution to support them. But at the same point of time, categorizing in a caste, community or religion way is a way of consolidating their own vote bank. It is not out of sincerity. And one very important thing, with due respect to all the parties, even after 70 years, our major Muslim brothers, which is the largest minority community, still needs reservation. It is a failure of their governments and our nation as such. Because even after 70 years of independence, we are still talking the language of some kind of support. That means we have failed us somewhere. And I don't want to blame any party.
I'm short of time. Atarzia, take 30 seconds. Atarzia, so what is it? What do Muslims in India want? What would they like to see? What would be more inspirational than quotas?
Rishabh, they don't want any reservation. Only thing that basically reservation should be restricted to 30%. The education and upskilling and providing facilities should be there, but that 30% should be only on economic criteria, and let the competent people come and let the deserving people qualify and get the opportunities
Okay.
which they very well deserve. And because then only the nation and the economy can take growth and the development can take place. You can't make 90% reservation, then where will be the space for deserving and competent people? You see, so what I want that the reservation should be, I'm again saying, on economic criteria.
Okay.
And the people who have already taken the advantage of reservation, their next generation should not be eligible for
Okay.
any reservation.
Okay, Ms. Ren, what then, regardless of what government gets formed in 3-4 weeks' time, what is your hope that how should they be functioning when it comes to welfareism for Muslims?
I would say there should be a proper representation on behalf of the Muslims. What all difficulties, not only Muslims, but everyone are being facing, everything should be addressed. How we all could live together as a whole family and not divided on basis of religion. That is what should be spoken about. We should be talking about the development and how to progress India, how to become a better country wherein the poor don't die without food. Such kind of conversations should happen instead of
Okay.
only Hindu and Muslim. We are done with this subject.
Okay.
80 years, it's more than enough. My father has died. Now it's my kids' time. Let them talk about progress, development. Let's talk about equality. Let's talk about human rights. Let's talk about justice and not Hindu-Muslim.
Okay, all right.
Yes, representation of everyone should be there
Okay.
in the parliament. That thing should be spoken about.
Okay, all right, that's reasonable. Major Shah, are Muslims in this country ready, perhaps even anxious, awaiting things like reform in education, things like opportunities in other fields? Because when we talk about madrasa reform, when we talk about legal reform, it becomes a very strangely, for some people who claim to represent Muslims in this country, a very touchy subject. They don't even want to talk about it. Madrasa reform, don't interfere. Legal reform, don't interfere. When it comes to civil code reform, stay away. Why?
Right, Rishabh. I'll just read a small couplet from Majroor Sultanpuri, who said, मैं तो अकेले ही चला था जानिबे मंजिल, मगर लोग साथ आते गए और कारवां बनता गया. So the very fact is, we have to bring a change, and even if people are not ready, they have to be prepared to be ready. I'll give you an example of, you mentioned about General Shah, who the former Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University, former Deputy Chief of Army Staff. He's now the Pro-Chancellor of a very prestigious university. He has taken up a mission of starting schools, and he has started some very successful schools. He's taken up a mission on education of our countrymen, of our little boys, of Indians, irrespective of whichever religion, caste, creed, or region they come from. So the very fact is, they have been a start, at least, in reforms in education. Unless we have reforms, we need reforms. The very fact that we have to look into our own collars, we have to do a self-introspection, and we have to see where we lack. Otherwise, we'll remain behind all the time. So Muslim community definitely needs to need reforms. I totally agree with that. And so the very fact that if we do not, yes.
Okay, so Rahul Ishwar, let me ask you the last difficult question. Then what should be the approach of Hindus in this country to Muslims? Should it be a patronizing approach that, listen, we are more of us, therefore we're just leaving you alone, be grateful?
You know, Pujaniya Sarsang Chalak of RSS, even though I don't belong to RSS, has rightly addressed this question. Pujaniya Sarsang Chalak Guruji Golwalkar says he was a kind of a harsh liner earlier, but he evolved into a kind of Gandhian later. And in 1971 interview, he says, Muslim community, if they are ready for reform, let reform come from them. You know, our community also has issues. Let reform come from inside us. Yes, state should support all the positive measures, but any reform should come from within. And he says, I am not ready to impose any of my, my own positions on them. So that's a sagely attitude. My community also need reforms. For example, we have casteism problems still among us. Some pocket corners, there is still untouchability, which we cannot imagine that Ambedkar ji and Mahatma Gandhi fought or Vivekananda fought against. So my community has problems. So I should take initiative, or our members should take initiative in bringing reform to ourselves. Similarly, our Muslim brothers also has their own issues. Our Christian brothers have issues. Our Nagas may have issues. And the state should be a facilitator, supporter, positive enforcer of everything that is positive and moving forward. That should be the right attitude. And reform should come from within, was a sagely position advocated by none less than Guruji Golwalkar himself.
Okay, I'm going to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the thought we're going to leave you with. And the thought is this. You've just heard Muslims in this country saying that we are not wowed by what is probably an empty promise anyway, that there are other practical things that can be done other than quotas. Now, what we need to see happen logically, obviously, as we attempt to raise the bar of the conversation, is capable, we can do it if we try hard, is be able to examine Muslims in this country examining for themselves the social reform, examining for themselves who have decided to claim to represent and speak for them. The BJP has to empower Muslims in this country through representation. And that representation obviously has to be in bodies like India's parliament and other legislative organisms of the body politic. And then you will find voices that are not merely appealing to all, charitably, I would say, the comforts of the old. Let's take a break and pick up another conversation on the other side. I thank my guests. See you in a minute.